Shalom, everybody. Rabbi Edelstein here with this week's installment of Rabbi E in 3. We probably go a little longer than 3 today. Brought to you as always by MEOR DC. Please find us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is MEOR DC, national website MEOR.org. We have Poland trip coming up and many other programs. We've all been through a very, very difficult week. The pain, the tragedy, the suffering of the Pittsburgh shooting last Shabbos. I think I can speak for many rabbis and other people who want to say something but don't want to say something cliche, don't know what to say that could possibly match the enormity of the horror, the wisdom, trying to find wisdom to share. So, got to say something. So I'll say a few things. I'm going to tie it in to the Torah portion of the week, Chayei Sarah, because we Jewish people get our wisdom, our very life direction from the Torah, and it speaks to us individually and collectively in all situations. And this Shabbat, even though the tragic shooting was on last Shabbat, the week of the mourning and the funerals, is the portion called Chayei Sarah. And there's wisdom we can learn for ourselves, and wisdom that really inspires us with a vision of those 11 people who died and what they achieved in this world as well. So we'll kind of tie it in to the Torah portion. It's a very beautiful morning here, a fall morning in Silver Spring. Hashem's beautiful world, beautiful creation, the colors, the calmness, and of course the stark contrast with the evil, violent horror of innocent people being murdered, Jewish people being murdered, Jewish people on Shabbos being murdered as they were expressing their Judaism. We know, I think, and the Torah tells us that we're meant to be a blessing in this world. The Jewish people have a unique mission to be a goy kadosh, a holy nation, everyone in the Jewish people, man, woman, child, rabbi, lawyer, professor, name it. It's a collective mission to be a or lagoyim, a light to the nations. There are many, many expressions in the Torah and Tanakh of that vision that God had for us and that we accepted enthusiastically to be something special in this world, to represent conscience, morality, ethical monotheism, the light of the Torah. We could go on, and those are things to talk about and think about and try to live throughout our lives. Of course, part of that job is to try to reflect those values and shed that light even in, maybe especially in the midst of darkness, terrible darkness. So it's a challenge for all of us, but that's our job as Am Kadosh, as Goy Kadosh, as a holy nation. So this week's Torah portion is called Chayei Sarah. And actually, Chayei Sarah literally means the life of Sarah, and it really talks about her death, or the aftermath of her death. And not only her death, but the death of Avram Avinu, her husband, her beloved soulmate, and also the death of Yishmael, the son that Avram had with his other wife, Hagar, that Sarah had wanted him to have. So it's a parsha of death, of physical death, but it's called Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah. And I just think there's several verses, and we only have time for a couple, that talk about the passing from this world of these great individuals. 11 beautiful people who brought light to the world in so many ways were taken from this world last week in the Pittsburgh shooting. I think they embody many of the things, they embodied some of the things I want to share with you from the Torah, right? It says about the Sarah, it begins, Sarah's lifetime was 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years, the years of the life of Sarah. Now, why the Torah breaks it down to 137, much commentary about that. But then even stranger, after breaking up 137, it says at the end, the years of Sarah's life. Why repeat that? And Rashi has 3 beautiful words. Kulan shavin latova. In other words, even though we could divide Sarah's life into different periods, and the rabbis do that to teach other lessons, all of those years were equal in goodness, latova, equal in goodness. Now that's strange, because if we think of goodness as meaning good times, Sarah and Avram had a lot of good times, I'm sure, but they had a lot of difficulties. They had abductions and famines and death threats and a lot of horrible challenges they endured. But you could understand it that the Torah is telling us that in all of those things, Sarah saw everything latova. She saw it for good. She saw it as an opportunity. She saw it as coming from Hashem. That's one way of understanding those words. Also, you could understand Kulan Shavin Latova. It was all for good, meaning she saw the opportunity to do good in calm times, in troubled times, to do good. And that's an incredible message about life and about a life well lived from a Jewish point of view, that you see the good in others all the time, even in the darkness, as much as possible, and you do good all the time, as much as possible. So that's one beautiful insight as someone, great woman, left the world named Sarah. Then we have Avram, her husband. And before he dies, it describes him as old Baba Yamim, which literally means coming with days. And it simply means advanced in age, but the great commentaries explain no, because a righteous person collects beautiful, meaningful days. All the days of Avram's life were full of meaning. Were days worthy to bring with him to the world to come, full of meaning and connection and teaching and love and kindness. That's a model for us, to live every day, to be the person who, when we leave our lives, hopefully in a peaceful, calm, beautiful way, but however that happens, for whatever reason we can't understand, we should be able to bring with us all of our days to the next world, beautiful, meaningful, shining with love, Torah, mitzvot. And then when Avram actually dies, it says, and that'll be the last verse I'll leave you with, it says, now these are the days of the years of Avram's life. Again, it mentions days, years. It wasn't just lengthy in time, full days, meaningful days, good days. And Avram expired and died at a good old age, mature and content, Saveya. And the rabbis say he didn't die with regrets, because he had lived his life purposefully and connected to God and brought into the world the light of Hashem, of monotheism, of chesed, of kindness. He died content. He saw his son. He saw the beginning, grandson, the beginning, or son, the sons, the beginning of the Jewish people. And then finally it says, and he was gathered to his people. Now that's a strange phrase. You might say, oh, it means he was buried in the family cemetery. No, he wasn't buried in the cemetery. He was buried in Machpelah, in Hebron, away from where he grew up and where his family lived. That's a hint in the Torah to the idea, not a new idea, not a fringe idea, an accepted traditional idea in Judaism. Our soul lives on forever. It lives in the world to come. This world is a corridor to the world to come. Gathered to his people means he left his earthly existence to join in the bond of life, Gan Eden, connected to the souls of his ancestors in another dimension. Life after death. And that's also why the Torah portion is called Chayei Sarah, because it talks about the greatness of her life in this physical world and Avram's, but it alludes to the fact that the end of life in this world is not the end. It's sad, it's tragic, especially when evil shortens the lives of people in a way we can't understand, but it's not the end of their life. Those holy souls who died al Kiddush Hashem, sanctifying God's name, when you die for being a Jew, consciously or not, they gave up, and they were living as Jewish people. They gave up their lives to sanctify God's name, but they're in a beautiful realm, a realm of meaning and connectedness, and through their deaths, they also bring about, part of their legacy is to bring more light into the world, more unity among the Jewish people, and Hashem knows we need it. So life well spent, beautiful days of goodness and illumination, all 11 of them. I'm not going to name them, read about their biographies. They did beautiful things in this world. They go to the next world with beautiful, meaningful days and mitzvot and accomplishments, and they're still living. They're still living in a greater, fuller, more joyous existence. May we all live beautiful days, beautiful, meaningful years, the opposite of the evil we saw, bringing light to the world. We'll probably have more darkness. Let's not be naive. But this is the message from the Torah, from Parshas Chayei Sarah, of how to live a life, how to leave this world. May we all see beautiful, comforting events in this world. May the whole world come together. The Messianic age we all long for, may it come speedily. Have a wonderful, meaningful, light-filled Shabbos. It's a day of light, and we need it in times of darkness. Good Shabbos.